Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, along with my co-host from Awful Announcing, the associate editor of the sports blog Awful Announcing, Ken Fang. And Ken, good evening. And it's going to be very, football heavy centric show, both in college and in the NFL Week 14. And we'll get to the college football to start off with, or just for starters. And we finally have that 12-team playoff schools that has been officially named this afternoon, noontime. And Ken, give me your thoughts on the 12 teams that has been selected, slotted in their seedings, and how do you feel about the committee's selection, and if you have any qualms about that?
Well, I don't have a qualm with Alabama being knocked out of the knocked out of the bracket because you lose to Oklahoma like you did, like they did. They didn't look very convincing. I know Alabama's feels that they have a right to be in the playoff every year, but I have to say that they didn't get the job done. And you don't get to the conference championship game and you lose. I think they had 3 losses this season, Stephen. So I have to say that Alabama didn't deserve to get in. SMU. I don't have a problem with it because they got to the conference championship game. And not only that, the ACC was deserving of multiple bids. So I think they got some of it right. Notre Dame was going to get in no matter what because they won a home game there and ESPN wants a game there. But I have to say overall, there's some things I have issues with, but let's get over it. Let's talk about your thoughts, Stephen.
Well, first of all, let me pull out the 12-team committee, that 12 schools, I should say, that they have chosen. I do believe they got it right, and I don't have a lot of qualms about it either in regards to the selection of this format. What I do have is the format in which that they have currently right now with the 12 teams. Here I'm showing you right now. This is from Ian Rappaport this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, Oregon. I have no problem with that. They beat Penn State in a very close battle yesterday. 2, Georgia. They beat Texas twice, even with the 2 losses. SEC will always get the the higher bids, higher selections, higher seating, whatever you want to say. 3 and 4. Here you have Boise State with Ashton Genty, leading the way, and number 4, Arizona State. This is kind of a shocker in my opinion. Big 12. It's with both Oklahoma and Texas no longer on the conference. It kind of like a mismatch of like a mid-tier schools, if you want to say it. Arizona State, UCF, West Virginia's and Cincinnati's of the world. You have like a lot of teams that were without a home for after the Pac-12 got disbanded, and then Arizona State, out of all the teams out there, just completely came out of nowhere and took the conference, and the way they demolished Iowa State yesterday, another school that's had a very good season, kind of a surprise season. The way they completely dismantled Iowa State yesterday was very, very impressive. So I'm really, really surprised that they got the 4 seed there. And then the 5-12 matchup, 5 Texas Clemson, 6 and 11, 6 Penn State, SMU, 7-10. That's Notre Dame, Indiana for the Battle of State of Indiana in Notre Dame. And then the 8-9 game, Ohio State and Tennessee. And then as you can see here, the winner of 8-9 faces Oregon. The 5-12 will face Texas. the 6-11 matchups will face Boise State, excuse me, and then two 7-10 winner will face number 2 Georgia in Georgia. So, I don't really have any problems with the the 12 teams, but I would like to think that maybe we could have probably started with 8, or maybe go all 16, because you have Alabama's of the world complaining about the all of a sudden the strength of schedule, and maybe doing away with it for some reasons. That's
Right.
See, the problem is these people all think that the college football, right or wrong, they all think that it goes through SEC, or SEC runs through them. And you have coaches in the SEC, ironically, Lane Kiffin and even Kirby Smart yesterday complain about and then how deserving of them and stuff like that, which is obviously a signs of the SEC arrogance and so forth. Even Nick Saban came in and said that we have to reevaluate how we choose as schools or teams in these types of situations. Of course, we know Saban obviously is, I don't want to say shilling for Alabama, considering he was a legendary coach there, but it does kind of, lead credences that, it's all, SEC being, crying foul, Paul Feinbaum's of the world, et cetera, et cetera. But, the college football doesn't, maybe the college football maybe need SEC and vice versa and all of that. But, in this case, as we talked earlier, Alabama had 3 losses. You lost to Vanderbilt of all teams, which has been also rans for such a long time. And then you lost to Oklahoma as well. And help me out of here. Who else did they lost on that?
Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Tennessee. That's another team that they lost, that they look poorly. You lost 3 times to, teams within your own conference. That doesn't really help your cause at all. So I don't know why people or Alabama boosters, supporters, or fans, or even the college football writers are openly complaining about that kind of stuff, Ken.
Yeah, and the thing is that as I mentioned, sometimes the SEC shows and the Alabama feel that they are entitled to go every year, but they didn't honestly, they didn't deserve it this year. And I'd say if they had beaten, if you take away one of those 3 losses, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, or Oklahoma, and they beat one of those 3 teams rather convincingly, I'd say they have an absolute argument to get in. But to be honest with you, Stephen, Alabama deserved not to go in. You can argue whether Boise State should have the number 3 seed, and maybe probably one of the weaker teams to be compared to maybe Clemson, which won the ACC championship, is going to be, I believe, is going to be 5th ranked, and they'll be playing in the first round instead. But you know what? Other than that, that's kind of nitpicking. I think Boise State played Oregon tough earlier this season, and it took Oregon a couple of kickoff returns for them to defeat Boise State. Otherwise, Boise State might have been ranked a little bit high. Well, probably they might not. Well, who knows? I don't think they maybe ranked 2nd. Who knows if they beat Oregon earlier this season? So, but the fact is, Oregon is number 1, and you have Georgia number 2, deservedly so, and Boise State is ranked 3. So, it's interesting to see how this is going to all play out. And I have a feeling, Stephen, these games are going to get very good ratings, and if that's the case, if they get NFL type ratings for the quarterfinals, the first round and quarterfinals, I can definitely see the college football playoff expanding to a 14-team field next year, because they want to continue to make sure that the golden egg and the golden goose continues to lay those eggs and continue to get money for the college football playoff, because I have a feeling this is going to be very successful.
See, the one of the things that I'm having a little bit of a question mark is, the meaning, the value of conference championships. moving forward, because it's now one full conferences. It's not like you're separated into, north or south or east or west like we've seen in the past with other conferences. So the value of the conference championships kind of goes wayside, because you have the team that won the conference facing against the the team that finished second, and then when you lose that conference game, that kind of drops you out, or drops you down further, and the value of the conference games kind of becomes a little bit more meaningless, and we saw a lot of empty seats, especially in that Big 12 game in Jerry World, which hosts about 80,000 plus. So that's a little bit of a question mark. I know it's a moneymaker, but for many conferences and television rights, all that kind of stuff involved. But I think that has to be discussed further. Do you want to keep the number one team that finished in the conference overall facing the number two team, and then just kind of ironically subsequently drop both teams from your own conferences from not qualifying at all? Or will this kind of spur maybe another change where we finally go from 12 to say 16, which I think is ultimately the right number when it's all said and done, when we expand the playoffs again, just stick to 16 teams and then just move on with it, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we're going to get to 16 teams. I think next year they're going to do 14, and then probably as they see that this is successful, they're going to go to 16. I think that there's no doubt about that. ESPN, as we all know, controls college football. They're having a big deal about this. Fox has been their main rival, but I have to tell you, as long as they have the college football playoff in their realm, I don't see this ESPN taking their letting go of this, to be honest with you, because this is a very big property, and college football really liked the fact that there were a lot of people talking about the 12-team field, and who was going to get in and who was going to get out, and which conferences were going to get multiple teams into the 12-team playoff, and Boise State, were they deserving of their high ranking? So they love this discussion, and if they get 14 teams, then they're going to say, who are the two teams that deserve to get in, and let's expand to 16 teams. So they're going to do this. There's no doubt about that, Steven. I think the 14 team is going to be definitely a thing next season, and then they're going to be 16 teams, and then we have 8 first round games, which I think is going to be that would be just something that the college football there was talk that college football tournament would one day be bigger than the NCAA basketball tournament. I think we're there. I think we're going to get to that point. And the fact is that 16 teams, as you mentioned, is going to be right. I think by 2026, that'll happen.
Yeah. So let's turn our attention to the actual game itself on this format right now. Ken, let's take a look at the game that will take place here, 8-9. This is a very interesting matchup. Ohio State probably lost a lot from losing to Michigan. Talks of Ryan Day's job security has been a hot button topic in college football. They face Tennessee. This is a dangerous time for Ohio State right now. 8-9. I have a feeling that Tennessee would run a rough shot against Ohio State, and I have a feeling that could spell the end of Ryan Day's tenure in Ohio State. What do you think?
Yeah, there's no doubt that Ryan Day, he's got to win the national championship to save his job. Lose 4 straight games to Michigan, that's unacceptable. You can be 120-4. If those 4 losses are to Michigan, your job is in trouble. So we saw what happened to Earl Bruce back in the 1980s when he was the coach of Ohio State. He couldn't beat Michigan. He was a very successful coach. He was well liked by the Ohio State fans, but because he couldn't beat Michigan, he was let go. So,
Right. Same with John Cooper too. Yeah.
and same with John Cooper. And also, I mean, Urban Meyer was undefeated against Michigan. That's one of the reasons why he is a legend. And every time that now they're talking about firing Ryan Day, there's talk about bringing Urban Meyer back, which he has said no, he's not going to do that because of his health. And we'll see what happens. But I have to say that if Ryan Day doesn't win this game, and I think this is going to be at Columbus too, Stephen. So if this game isn't won by Ohio State, they don't advance. They don't advance to the quarterfinal round. I would say that I would not even venture to guess that Ryan Day will be fired the next day. He will be probably fired minutes after that game. So this is a must win for Columbus. Tennessee, they have already beaten Alabama. They've already had a very successful season, so it really doesn't matter if they lose this game. I think they're playing with house money here. So I would have to say the pressure is all on Ohio State. If Tennessee plays a very good game, like similar as they did against Alabama, I think they could take that game. But right now, I'm going to have to say Columbus will win this game. There'll be a lot of pressure on them, but I think they'll pull out that win.
Right. For Tennessee, I think Nico Maliaba, the quarterback, suffered an injury a game or two ago. So his health will be very, very important, I think, in determining the outcome of this game. 5-12 matchup, Texas and Clemson. This is going to be in Texas. Quinn Ewers, looked okay, which has been a major topic pretty much for the entire season that Ewers has been playing. I'll say this: I think Texas will win, no question. But I wouldn't be shocked if Arch Manning ends up playing a lot more than Ewers at some point, and I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson. I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson has Texas by the ropes and has a lead in the game, and Texas is forced to make a comeback, and I think Texas will win this one. Do you go with that analogy, or do you feel Clemson deserves a lot more pub than this one?
I think Dabo Swinney is a big time coach, and sure, Clemson didn't look very good earlier this season. They look like a team that was totally lost in the NIL era, and it looked like people were talking that Dabo Swinney wasn't going to be surviving the season. But they got to the ACC championship game. Granted, they won it. They're the fifth ranked team. They're outside of the top four, but they got the job done. Dabo Swinney deserves his credit for getting Clemson to play very well in the final part of the season. He's won national championships before, Stephen. We know that. He's a guy that can step up in the big games. I wouldn't be surprised for Clemson to win this game. I know it's going to be in Texas, but I really think that Clemson can honestly. I honestly think Clemson can win this game. I really do.
Okay. Yeah, Cade Klubnik really, really needs to, play a lot better.
I should correct myself. The Clemson
he's been playing a lot. He's playing really great in the recent weeks, and with his arm and the leg. So Klubnik really needs to step up again and have Clemson a fighter's chance. The way they played against SMU yesterday. They had them, they were blitzing them from the start. And then from the second half onwards, they kind of, took the foot off their brake and, let them into the game, and then they ended up giving up a tying touchdown with less than a minute and only to be bailed out by a freshman kicker who kicked a 56-yarder to get themselves into this, playoff race. Yes. So I do think, I'm going to give Clemson a shot, but I think Texas has a fair amount of talent on both sides of the ball. I'll give Texas a home edge here. 6-11 match. Penn State, SMU. Look, I give SMU a lot of credit. They did not even look like, forget the playoffs. They did not even look like they deserved in the ACC championship for the first 30 minutes because they were just shooting themselves in the foot with errors, penalties, and lack of consistency on both sides of the ball. But SMU found their niche, their way back into the game, and eventually could have sent this game into overtime, and even or at least win a game. If they had been more disciplined, in the game. But they got in. I think I have no qualms with SMU getting in at all, like other people compared to the other people. I'm from Dallas area. I lived there. I'm familiar with the SMU and the community and the school in that region. It's not a big time a program. They were at one point during the the old Southwestern Conference days with Craig James, Eric Dickerson, who was in attendance yesterday. But the death penalty completely crippled the program, as well as the Southwestern Conference itself. So I'm really, really happy for SMU to get there. They're obviously not the biggest program by any stretch, but they have recruited very, very well in Texas, and so they have a lot of that talent players from that deep Texas pool that they can rely on moving forward. As far as going to the state college up in Pennsylvania in a frigid cold weather in a stadium that holds well over 100,000 people in the whiteout and everything. I don't know if the atmosphere and the setting is suited for SMU. You can't be playing Clemson in Charlotte and play really, really poorly like they did for first 30, 40 minutes. So, with Clemson, they gave Oregon a run for the money yesterday. If Drew Aller shows a little more consistency, I think Penn State will be a dark horse in such a dangerous team, but at times, he makes some boneheaded errors and throws. So I still like Penn State, but if SMU doesn't show up and play, with more discipline and more, alertness, I think this game could be really, really one of those games that could be a very ugly game for out of the the first round teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think that I still have my doubts on James Franklin in coaching a big game. He still
that's a problem.
There's still things that he does that really baffle me to this day. He still hasn't been able to beat the big teams in the Big Ten. Granted, they did. Congratulations to them. They got to the championship game yesterday, but they didn't play very well against Oregon. So I'm going to have to say that I have my doubts against Penn State. Yes, they're having a home game in Happy Valley. It should be a win for them because SMU comes in with a very weak resume, but there are things that James Franklin does in big games that just really make me scratch my head, Stephen.
Right.
He's got a good quarterback. He's got a good running game, but at the same time, there are times when he just comes out with a really baffling decision, and there's clock management really shoots him in the foot. So I'm going to say Penn State will win this game. They're going to win by 3 points only because they're at home. If this game is at SMU, I don't really, to be honest with you, I wouldn't give Penn State a chance because of James Franklin's really poor coaching record in big games. I'll say that they managed to somehow find a way to win against SMU, but just barely.
Okay. 7-10 matchup, Notre Dame and Indiana. Indiana had a phenomenal season in its first year under Kurt Cignetti, who came over from, I believe, James Madison, and completely transformed that program that has always been, as known as a, like a basketball school. And tremendous first year. Even with the with the lack of quality wins, I do believe that they deserve to be in it. They face their like a big stepbrother in the same state that Notre Dame, with obviously more history and cachet. This is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. The weather obviously is not going to be a problem for neither schools. Obviously, they played in the Midwest and outside of course. I do believe that this is a game that I think Notre Dame needs to perhaps, you know, um, you know, like push their will against, Indiana. I think Marcus Freeman is a chance to be like a big time coach now. Obviously, his name sort of being attached to the NFL coaching job. Although I do believe it's a tactic by his agent to kind of, get a brand new contract out. And I don't think he's ready for that pressure cooker situation. In the NFL, where pressure to win is a lot more larger than being in college. So Notre Dame, I think, could definitely win this game and go on to face Georgia in the second round.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting situation because, Stephen, everyone's talking about the fact that this will be the first time a network other than NBC is going to be broadcasting a game from Notre Dame Stadium. Of course, Notre Dame has been NBC has been the network of Notre Dame at home since 1991. The last time a NBC network televised a game from there was 1990. The last game actually was broadcast from Notre Dame Stadium was November 17th, 1990 against Penn State. That was by ESPN. And since that game is going to be simulcast on ESPN and ABC, the last game that ABC telecast was from Notre Dame Stadium was 1986. So I looked that all up today because, as you know, I'm a sports media person and at Awful Announcing, so I put that out. I also wrote that on a Substack today in regards to the horrible show that ESPN put on for the college football playoff selection show, which we can discuss a little bit later, Stephen. But it'll be the first time that a network other than NBC will be setting up its equipment for Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium. For a lot of Notre Dame haters like myself, this is an opportunity to see. We're all going to be rooting for Indiana that day. Indiana, of course, coming in with a great season. Of course, losing to Ohio State earlier this season. They had a chance to prove some things. They could not, unfortunately, against Ohio State, but they deserve to get into the college football playoff. They're going to be taking a road game. It's not going to be very far from Terre Haute when they go down to Notre Dame.
South Bend, right?
Yep, the South Bend. So it's going to be fun to see this. These two rivals they don't play each other. They don't play. They really don't play each other. So it's an opportunity. I think the committee thought it would be had a little sense of humor there by putting them Indiana and Notre Dame together. So I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I do think that probably Notre Dame will win this game because they're at home, but I think Indiana, stepping up in the bright spotlights for the very first time in a very long time, is going to put up a very good fight. But I do think Notre Dame will probably win this by 10 points.
Mm-hmm. Let's quickly look at the second round matchups that we're looking at right now. 8 or 9, whoever moves on, they play Oregon. No matter who plays, I think going up to Eugene, Oregon, northwest in this time of the year, certainly does nobody a favor. Of course, Ohio State. At least Ohio State can deal with the climate.
Stephen, I think these are going to be these are neutral sites.
Neutral site. I apologize there. Neutral site. So those are like the Big Six bowl games.
They're going to be the bowl games. They're going to be at bowl games. They're going to be.
I apologize there.
That's okay. So, they're not going to be the first round games are all going to be home sites, but when we go to the quarterfinals, and I think Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm looking at the schedule correctly, I have to go to the ESPN site. Hold on just a second. I can.
No problem. I'm just going to make a quick prediction here. No matter who comes out of this 8-9 matchup, going up against Oregon will be a tough matchup. I know Ohio State gave Oregon a tough battle in Eugene earlier this year, which
Oregon would
their only first loss of the season.
Yeah, Oregon would host the winner of the 8-9 game at the Rose Bowls. That would be
Oh,
January
okay,
1st. So,
okay, yeah.
so, so that
Obviously, it's traditional Big Ten matchups like we've seen in the past. Obviously, um,
mhm,
so I will give Oregon a real good shot at this one.
mhm.
I have
Okay,
Oregon winning this one. Yeah, 4-5,
okay.
4-5 matchup. Arizona State and Texas.
That's going to be played at the Peach Bowl on January 1st in Atlanta.
Okay.
Um, I would say I would say that Arizona State would probably that's going to be a fantastic match, especially if Texas goes and wins that game and goes over to take on Arizona State. I think Texas would have to be favored in that game, even though Arizona State was picked to finish last in the Big 12 earlier this season. They had a fantastic season, but I would have to say Texas would be actually be favored to win that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean they went to Georgia. Play Georgia in Mercedes-Benz Stadium already. They know the environment. They have the atmosphere. Obviously, I think Texas. I will give Texas the edge in this one. And then 3-6 matchup. Penn State, excuse me, against Boise State.
Yeah, that will be played in the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve in Arizona. Um, Boise State probably the weakest of all the conference winners in the but they're ranked third. Like I said, they gave Oregon a very tough matchup. But because of strength of schedule, I really thought that Boise State should be ranked fourth or fifth, but the committee thought otherwise. I would have to say if Penn State wins this game, Boise State is going to have its hands full. If SMU somehow defeats Penn State, I think that's going to be a fantastic matchup, and I think Boise State would actually be favored against SMU. So, if Penn State wins, I would go with Penn State over Boise State. But if it's SMU, I would pick Boise State.
Yeah. So this is predicated on the matchup between whoever comes out of this one. So this one is probably the most intriguing matchups of all. 7-10, obviously Notre Dame 2 versus 7. Notre Dame versus Georgia.
And that's going to be at the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, Sugar Bowl. Okay. I will say Notre Dame has a lot to gain out of this. Obviously, being an independent and being ACC, but I think Georgia will find a way. I know Carson Beck's injury is a big concern, even with the time off and everything. So if Georgia somehow can, put Gunner, I forgot the name of the backup quarterback, who's a highly rated player himself. If the backup quarterback has to play, they have at least some time to, get him acclimated, and they can also lean on their running back in running game, led by Trevor Etienne, which is obviously the younger brother of Travis Etienne, the Jaguars running back. And also they have a very stout defense as well. Defensive line is terrific. Linebacking and the secondary led by safety Malachi Starks is outstanding as well. I think Georgia, if the quarterback does not hinder, I think Notre Dame will have their hands full, and I think Georgia will come out of this one for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that no matter who wins this game, I think Georgia is very powerful. And granted, they did lose some. They did lose this year. They didn't come out of the SEC undefeated. But I'm going to have to say that no matter who wins, whether it's Notre Dame or Indiana, I'm going to have to say Georgia will win that game quite easily. I think quite handily. And of course, then it would be the winner of the Sugar Bowl taking on the winner of the Fiesta Bowl. That would be either like Boise State or Penn State or SMU taking on Georgia, Notre Dame, and Indiana. That will be at the Orange Bowl. That will be taking place Thursday, January 9th. And then the winner of the Rose Bowl, which probably will be Oregon, will be taking on the winner of the Peach Bowl which either will be Arizona State or Texas or Clemson. They'll be facing off each other at the Cotton Bowl on Friday, January 10th. So some very intriguing matchups there, Stephen. I'd still have to say Oregon would be the favorite to get to the final, at least for me.
Me too. And then I'll pick Georgia. I know it's a anti-climatic, but I say Oregon, and then I would say Georgia will both face each other in a true 1-2 format. Now, if that was the case, 1 and 2, Oregon and Georgia, if you had to pick one today, who are you picking?
I would have to pick Georgia. I think Georgia is the more complete team, although Oregon, of course, that comes in undefeated. I think Georgia is, and of course, it'll be the two big powers out of the Big Ten and the SEC. College football, I think some people will get angry over that type of matchup because you have the two biggest conferences. But I really do believe that those are the two best football teams right now, Stephen. I think they're correctly ranked 1 and 2. So I'd have to give Georgia the edge in that game because I think Georgia just has the speed. They've got the rushers. I don't think that Oregon has seen some of the speed that Georgia has. And Kirby Smart is a coach who has been in the national championship game. He's built a dynasty in Georgia based on, and he's learned very well from from Nick Saban, who was on the coaching staff with Alabama. So I'd have to say that I'm going to have to say Georgia, at least if I had to pick right now, Georgia and Oregon, if they faced each other in the national championship game, which would be on Monday, January 20th. Interesting how we've extended the college football season now. I would have to say Georgia would win that game.
Okay. Then I'm going to go the opposite and pick, Oregon. I do like Oregon's team makeup. Oregon came close to winning against Auburn more than a decade ago. Obviously, that was when they were in Pac-12 conference. They gave a real run for the money against Cam Newton and the Auburn Tigers. I do believe that Dan Lanning has this team really stacked offensively and defensively as well. The physicality and the speed, obviously, there's a bit of a question mark. I think, moving to, Big 12, from Pac-12 to Big 10, which they handle it very, very easily. But, you gave up 37 points to, Penn State. That certainly raises a question mark considering, Drew Aller's inconsistency and all of that. But, I would love to see, Big 10 team, give an SEC team a run for their money. Michigan did it last year against Alabama in a turned out to be Nick Saban's final game and final season. So I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon kind of give Georgia a good battle toe to toe, and then hopefully the experience of Dylan Gabriel, who's been to UCF. And then Oklahoma, and now Oregon for his final collegiate game. He probably doesn't have a lot of a high upside, compared to the other quarterbacks in the, for the NFL to have an NFL future as a starter. But I think he's a very good, damn good college football quarterback that I think he might just will the Oregon Ducks to the national championship, in my opinion. So this is going to be a very intriguing matchups in the inaugural 12-team field college football. And we look forward to, talking about it, toward the end of the year. And, as the games, starts to, take shape, and we'll find out more about, the whether the committee got it right, or whether the we should move on from 12 teams to 8 or 16 and so forth moving forward. So Juan Soto is expected to sign?
Yeah, so this is just coming out of news that I've just learned. This is stuff that, well, I haven't learned, but stuff that has been put out on there. We expect to hear that Juan Soto, who of course played with the New York Yankees this past season, helped to steer them to the World Series. He's expected to make a decision on where he's going to sign sometime around 9 p.m. So we are getting very close to that, and hopefully we'll hear from that. The New York Mets are supposed to be a very big favorite. Toronto is supposed to be in the mix. He also met with
Red
the
Sox
Boston Red
too.
Sox as well. And also, the New York Yankees are expected to be a big player in this. So we hope to hear from that before we sign off. We're still in the middle of our show. So if we hear anything new during this time, we'll let you know. But Juan Soto expecting to sign with a team sometime around right about now, 9 Eastern time. And when we get that news, we will pass it along. But I just wanted to let you all know that that's something that I'll be following.
That's a huge.
Something that
did
if it
somebody
breaks,
broke that news, or did you get that from some source?
MLB Network says that he's expected to sign sometime tonight, and so we're going to keep an eye on that in the next 20 minutes or so before we sign off. If we hear something in the next 20 minutes, we'll definitely let you know. But I just wanted to let you know.
Mike
Soto,
Kuma from the writer from the New York Post who covers the Mets. Excuse me. He also tweeted that the best guess from a league source is Juan Soto will reach his decision tonight. So, a year ago, it was Shohei Ohtani who made the big decision. Although, probably about maybe like a week later than
right about this time. I think I remember because I was in New York at the time.
I think it was a little bit later. And then now
it was around
Juan
December
Soto
7th.
is about to, something like that, 7th or 8th or something like that. And then now,
and we're right
Juan
about that
time. And people complain about Ohtani taking time to sign in, and so forth, which was kind of funny itself. But, Ken, do you have any kind of like a ballpark guess on what the contract would look like and who will sign, where he will sign?
Well, I like him to sign with the Red Sox, but of course, I don't think that's going to happen. The Red Sox have just lost Tyler O'Neill to Baltimore just yesterday. So the whole rumor is that he's going to sign for $700 million altogether for his total contract. I think that's going to probably be the Mets. I think he wants to stay in New York, but I think he wants to go have a chance to play in the National League, which he liked doing with the Washington Nationals, if you remember. So then he won a World Series with them.
Padres as well, right?
Yeah, and so I have a feeling that he's going to stay in the New York area and sign with the Mets. But like I said, hopefully we'll find out. I don't think we're going to find out right at 9 o'clock, but it is past 9 o'clock now. But hopefully, if we hear anything before we sign off, we'll certainly pass it along.
All right. I'm going to guess that it will be probably about 720 million, 15 years, which is kind of ridiculous, And I'm going to guess either the Mets or the Yankees. Either one of those teams.
Okay.
I think it will be New York, but I think it will be either the Mets or the Yankees. One of those teams. I think he likes the New York area very much. I think it offers him so much from a marketing and endorsement opportunities. So much. So I think there's the odds of him staying in New York would be much higher. And I think that's where he was going to be. And another breaking news, Dick Allen and Dave Parker elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think it's a senior kind of like a committee selection, correct?
The Veterans Committee.
Okay. Dick Allen, a former White Sox slugger.
Philadelphia Phillies.
Somebody known as a very, very a person with a difficult personality and so forth. I know he smokes during the game and so had a weird quirks and stuff like that. Finally got his dues, and then Dave Parker with the Pirates. The 1979 Pirates. I believe he won the MVP in that year as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken.
Yes. He also won the MVP of the All-Star game that year too. He had a great game that game. He threw out 2 players in the All-Star game in Seattle from right field. As you mentioned, he won a World Series ring with the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates in 1979. As I mentioned, another guy who wasn't known as a model citizen in the clubhouse, but along with Willie Stargell, along with a lot of those players. They won the World Series over the Baltimore Orioles in 7 games, and what was a really exciting World Series, Steven. So it's the last time the Pirates have won a World Series, to be interested to, as a matter of fact. So 1979, but and they also won the same year that the Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl that year as well. So great things to see. Great to see that these two gentlemen have gone into the Hall of Fame. I think they both deserve it. Dick Allen is someone he's going in posthumously. Unfortunately, he was not alive to be able to see this, but Dave Parker is still alive, so they will be in the part of the class of 2025 when they go in and be inducted in Cooperstown in August of next year. So I think it's very deserving. Actually, no, July of 2025, but they deserve it. They should be in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's a great honor for them. Luis Tiant, who unfortunately passed away, the Boston Red Sox pitcher, was also part of this particular vote. He did not make it. I think he didn't get enough votes. So I would have loved to have seen Louis get in, but Dick Allen and Dave Parker, I can't argue with those choices.
Absolutely. Well deserving. Let's take a quick look at the today's NFL score. Ken, I'll give you the honors of ranting about the Browns losing to the Pittsburgh Pirates. A couple of weeks after they shocked the Pirates. Excuse me, not the Pirates. I'm confusing the same Pittsburgh team, the Steelers, in a Thursday night game not too long ago.
Yeah, this was a bad effort. Jameis Winston threw pick after pick. He didn't look very good out there. The Steelers are ready for him this time around. When this is a place where the Steelers the Browns don't play very well. They got behind. They took the lead early, 7-3, and it looked very good. Once again, I mentioned how in the past Kevin Stefanski does a very good job in the first drive. The Browns scored in the first drive, took a lead 7-3, but then it was downhill after that. Jameis Winston just didn't look like Jameis. The Steelers defense was swarming all over him. And to make it all matters worse, at the end of the game, they muffed a punt. So it just pretty much that was just typical of the game for me. I was only watching through Red Zone. I didn't have the game on like I normally do, but I just have to say
same
that
here.
Yeah, I wasn't very impressed with the way the Browns played, and they took a loss. And it's just typical of the season. They're 3-10. They played like a 3-10 team today, Steven. So, there's some things that back to the drawing board. It's a lost season. They're not going to get the number 1 pick, at least at this time. They're probably going to be in the top 10 for a draft pick, and we'll see what happens. I would love to. I do have to say Jameis Winston does have a great the fact is that his mobility really helps out there, but it also hinders him because he made some really bad passes out there trying to run for his life today against the Steelers defense, which was really, like I said, swarming all over him. TJ Watt played where all the guys played very well. I have to give my hat. I hate to do this, but I tip my hat to the Steelers. It was a complete win for them today.
Yeah, I'm going to go talk about my Bears. They fired Matt Eberflus the day after Thanksgiving. It had to be done, of course. They had, extra days to prepare for this game. And, I was very, very interested to see what kind of an impact the firing of, Matt Eberflus and subsequent hiring of interim head coach Thomas Brown would have. I thought that, with the 49ers missing so many players, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Dre Greenlaw, and a host of others that were on IR or not playing. They had several players, Shavarius Ward, who also, lost his, daughter, a newborn child recently, and they also had another player who also lost I think it was maybe Trent Williams or somebody who had lost their loved ones recently. They were in a terrible position. I thought the Bears would have at least a fighting chance against the team, like the 49ers going into San Francisco, and I was thoroughly disappointed. I just called the the Bears post-game show on 670 The Score before before we did this live stream, and I expressed my anger about the Bears players talking such a good game, and obviously they've openly complained about Matt Eberflus's bad clock management and everything that finally led to his firing. And before anybody questioned that, it had to be done. Okay, Matt Eberflus was losing support inside the locker room and fired rightfully so. Although it looked like it was probably should have been done a lot sooner. And today's effort really was very, very disgusting and uninspiring. You talk a good game and you wanted Thomas Brown, or at least they wanted to be supportive, and they Brown himself distinguished himself with a great press conferences and taking more accountability, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then you go out there and crap the bed, or whatever you say. This was an embarrassing performance.
It was not a good effort.
Right from the get-go. They had more punts than the total yards offensively in the first half. 5 versus 4.
5-4.
See, this is a problem with the Bears. They look shit in the first 30 minutes. And then in the second half, just like we saw against the Lions on Thanksgiving, they finally pick it up and start to play much better. Unfortunately, I did not see that today, with Thomas Brown, maybe being a head coach and also being an offensive coordinator. The dual role probably did not suit him. No excuses, though. If you're going to be a head coaching candidate, you got to be able to handle these types of situations where, players, you have to be able to handle, head coaching duties as well as calling plays. You have to, look at not just the offense, but special teams and defense. And the defense just could not cover George Kittle all day, gave up at least 7 or 8 big plays of 20-plus yards. This, again, without Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. If any of those players were actually 100% healthy or even 90% and they were actually in the damn ball game, I cannot believe how bad the score would have been. So it's safe to say Thomas Brown candidacy for Bears head coach ended today, unfortunately. And I think it raises questions about, the players that the Bears have. They talk a good game, but they failed to back up. And now, it kind of raises questions about if, General Manager Ryan Poles, he got that dreaded vote of confidence this past week when he fired Matt Eberflus. Does Ryan Poles even deserve to stay as the general manager of this ball club and be in charge of finding another head coach? Because you're running out of people to blame and fire for this, disaster. And I think it's time we need to have that serious conversation. Do I want Ryan Poles, leading the charge of finding the head coach and then rebuilding this team from the trenches? Because this team could not handle the pass rush, and the pass protection was just god awful today, especially left tackle Braxton Jones. So, the next 4 weeks, I don't know. It's tough. If this is prelude to what we are going to be treated for the next 4 weeks, even with the coaching changes and everything, it's going to be very, very rough. I don't think the Bears will probably not win any game the rest of the season. I'm fully prepared for that, Ken.
Yeah, I have to say that was a very bad effort, Steven. When you put yourself behind the 8 ball, I think it was 28-0 in the first half.
No, 21-0 in the 20. It was 24-0 in the at halftime, I believe. And then the Bears scored 2 touchdowns in the second half. The third quarter. Excuse me. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive. And then they got the ball and they were driving. And then Caleb Williams made an error where he faked the throw and then lost the ball which was a fumble, of course, and then San Francisco recovered, and then from that very first play, Jawan Jennings was wide open for 30-plus yards touchdown, and then a few plays later, backup running back, backup, Isaac Guerrero scored a touchdown. Ball game, pretty much, unfortunately. So
right.
It's going to be a very tough 4 weeks.
Yeah, like you said, Stephen. At halftime, the stat came out that the Bears had more punts, 5, than total yards at 4. That was just absolutely horrible. It is one of the most one of the most embarrassing stats that any team has had at halftime. And granted, yes, the Bears did play a little bit better in the second half, but still, by that time it was done. You knew that they weren't going to come back against a team, a San Francisco 49ers team, which is struggling and is trying to fight for its playoff life right now, along with Los Angeles, because Seattle won today, and is ahead on the NFC West. If you usually, when a team loses its head coach by a firing, they play a little bit better inspired. They play more inspired. I didn't see that today. I did not see that at all. I just saw a team that just from what I saw from what I was watching on NFL Red Zone today, a team that just looked like it's just trying to spin its wheels and just waiting for the season to end. And if you're going to play like that, you're not going to be in the NFL. Jerry, it's been said NFL stands for not for long. And if you're going to play like that, you're not going to be in the league for long. So you got there are hundreds of players who want to play their asses off. And if you're not going to play and you got to give an effort, like the Bears did not bother today. It looks as if they forgot that it looked like they forgot there was a game today. At least in the first half, they forgot to get off the plane. That's how bad it was. So,
that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, because there's no effort. There was no intensity. I question anybody who says that football players don't have guts to play. But it really, to me, it looked like the Bears just had checked out mentally in the first half, and I think that's embarrassing for this franchise. I wrote on Blue Sky that I said this is every time you think there's a new low for the Bears, they find a way to make it lower. So I certainly hope they don't make it any lower for you, Stephen. But 5 punts and more than the total yardage with 4, that is just absolutely horrible. And the Bears really have to the Bears really have to look themselves in the eye and say, look themselves in the mirror and say, look, we can't have that happen again. But who knows, Stephen? The way that they're playing right now, maybe it does happen again next week. Let's hope not.
They play Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm afraid that this could be a real blowout if they don't get their shit together. Whatever they learn from this disaster, it's going to be. They better get their act together, quickly. They still have 4 more games left. The players really need to, take a hard look at themselves in the mirror. The coaches are fired, and the effort and the intensity remain the same. That just cannot happen. The next 5 or 4 games is a real audition for the players themselves. They need to take it as such. And, there are a lot of guys, unfortunately, who probably look like they quit and probably are, not going to be on this Bears team next season, regardless of who the coach is, with such a horrendous effort that you and I witnessed today. It was just abysmal, and just I can't think of any other words to think of. So let's do a quick rundown of the scores that really caught our attention. The big game, of course, was the Rams beating the Bills in Los Angeles in a wild shootout, 44-42. The Rams, listen, they are in the driver's seat in the NFC West, along with Seattle, who beat the Cardinals today. Cardinals and 49ers are kind of like 6 and 7 lurking in the back right now. This is going to be a very interesting fight for the NFC West. I hope it won't be like one of those 7 and 9 season a while ago when Seattle shocked the Saints. I think it was 2010 or something like that. But I think NFC West is probably going to be a dogfight until the very end. The Bills suffered a catastrophic third loss of the season. Next week they go to Detroit and play the Lions, which obviously wouldn't be much of a travel per se. But I got to tell you, Ken, Bills losing today really puts them in a tough spot because they still have to beat out the Chiefs for the number one seed in the playoffs, and this was a huge setback loss in my opinion.
Yeah, you got to find a way to win that game. I mean, yes, the Chargers, and the Bills played that very cold game last week in the snow. The Chargers,
49ers, that was a bad
49ers, right? The 49ers. I'm sorry, but the Bills, for some reason, they traveled out west. They had a slow start against the Rams, but they managed to charge back, and I give them credit. But Puka Nacua is just making catch after catch. It was absolutely amazing to see. So the Rams just seemed to be they caught the Bills just a bit, and they punched the Bills in the mouth. The Bills, it took them a while to get off the mat, but that last touchdown they scored to make it 44-42 was just a fact is that they were still behind by a score of 44-35, and they had to do an onside kick to try and get to try and at least make a last-ditch effort, which didn't work out. So the score was a little bit closer than the score indicated. But I have to say that I give the Bills credit, but now they're behind the 8 ball. They got to win out. They and I know that the Chiefs are having a tough time against the Chargers right now, but as long as the Chiefs win, it doesn't matter how they win it. As long as they keep winning and get the number one seed, the Bills are going to have to go to Kansas City and take on the Chiefs if they go to the AFC Championship, and that's a place you really do not want to play, especially in the playoffs, and especially the Chiefs. We've seen them before, Steven. They limped into the playoffs last season, and they didn't look like they were going to win any. But then they won the divisional and the championship game. AFC Championship came on the road, and they found a way to win in overtime in the Super Bowl. So I don't put anything past these Chiefs, even though I predicted that they wouldn't win the Super Bowl right now. They are the champs until someone beats them, and if they continue in this pace and keep winning and get the number one seed, I really don't think that anyone can beat them. At least on the AFC side, to go to the Super Bowl, because they know how to win, Steven. They just do, and they're a team that they're like the Patriots back in the last decade, Steven. We all hated them. We all hated to see them win, but they knew how to win, and that's the key. These Chiefs are the same way. They just know how to win the game. They may not look pretty, but they're going to find a way to win.
As for the NFC, the Lions beat the Packers 34-31 in a thrilling Thursday night game out here in Detroit, where I live. And obviously the story of the game is Dan Campbell and his gutsiness on fourth down. That the last play of the game, 4th and 1, they were still in a position to kick a field goal, but obviously that would have meant that they would give Packers the ball, and which is not a good sign. Considering the Packers' history, if you remember a long time ago, Aaron Rodgers beat them in the Hail Mary, almost a decade ago in the same stadium, largely due to right Thursday Night Football, which was helped by kind of like a phantom face mask call that set up the Hail Mary, of course. And I was damn impressed with Dan Campbell. You always live and die by the the philosophy and the calls you make. Obviously, the 4th and 1 play early in the game, not early in the game, in the third quarter, where they were deep in the in their own territory, which got stopped, and Packers capitalized and scored a go-ahead touchdown and so forth. This was a real good entertaining game. But the 4th and 1 call, Jared Goff stumbled because I think one of the linemen stepped on it or tripped him up. In college, that would have been ruled a dead ball there. But because it's NFL, where he even stumbled and had his one of his knee touch the ground, he was still able to hand off the ball to David Montgomery and gain the first down, run the clock down to 2 seconds or 3 seconds, kick a field goal, ball game. And the Lions are comfortably in the driver's seat now. They've won 11 in a row or a 10 in a row, I believe. So, it will be the Lions who have the home field advantage as of right now. Excuse me. The Eagles right behind them at 11-2. They had a hard time against the surging Carolina Panthers. Panthers put up a real good effort against them today. I'm not saying that that's an indication of things to come by any means, but the Eagles is chasing the Lions right now. The Eagles obviously have a playoff experience and pedigree, having been to the Super Bowl before. And it's going to be a very, very tight race. I think the Lions have to keep on winning. They welcome the Buffalo Bills next Sunday here in Detroit. It's going to be a real like a Super Bowl preview perhaps, but it's going to be a great game. The Lions just have to keep on winning in order to stave off the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. And the Eagles themselves, they have to hope that the Lions will somehow trip up somewhere. But if you look at the schedule, there aren't too many games that the Lions are either an underdog or they're going to be playing outdoors, except the one in Chicago. So pretty much most of the game are indoors, and I think it pretty much puts the Lions in a very favorable position for number one seed in the NFC, in my opinion.
Right. And just quickly before we go, because I have to get going from I'm not at home right now, so I got to get out of here. They're beginning to turn the lights off on me. So I just let me tell you that the Philadelphia Eagles, they struggled against the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young looking very, very strong, looking a much better now, looking like he's maturing and looking like the number one draft pick that he was last year. Philadelphia eking out a win. Bryce Young again having a chance to win the game at the end, but the Eagles managed to eke out that win, keeping pace with Detroit. So I think that Philadelphia, I think their defense is a little bit better than Detroit, Stephen. But right now, as long as Detroit keeps winning out, they're going to have that number one seed, and that's going to be a very tough place for anybody to play. We never would have thought we would say this even as recently as 4 years ago, Stephen. We wouldn't think that Detroit was going to be a very tough place to play, but Ford Field is definitely going to be a tough place, especially if they host the NFC Championship come January.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to put a bow on our show for tonight. Really, really talked a lot about the college football playoff format. We got some breaking news about the Juan Soto, perhaps very close to signing today. Buffalo, Sarah, obviously Buffalo lost, and it really, really sucked. Unfortunately, kind of losing to an NFC team, kind of hurt their, chances of getting the, top seed in the AFC when you have to play against the Chiefs there. So I'm sure you're probably very, very disappointed there. But thank you very much for the, comment there. Appreciate you watching it. We talk about the NFL, and we also talk about, baseball. Juan Soto close to signing, and Dick Allen and Dave Parker being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is long overdue for both players, and considering their credentials and everything. So we really appreciate the people hanging out with us tonight. 185 people watching it tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, as always. I hope everybody is having a wonderful week, and we look forward to doing this again next week. Maybe same time, perhaps, or maybe a little bit earlier, depending on the availability of our schedule as well. We're going to talk about the NFL Week 15, and perhaps we'll find out the impact of Juan Soto's signing, and could this be the dominoes that lead to more trades, signings, and big moves in the baseball. We already saw Willie Adames signing with the Giants yesterday, biggest contract in their team history as well. So we might see more of that moving forward. So we'll keep you all posted, and make sure that Ken also recently started his Substack as well. So Ken, let people know about your Substack, and more about it.
Yeah, so I just started a Substack. It's subscription based. You can look under Fang's Bites. It's there. So I just wrote a review. It's free for all. This one is free for all. It's about the really poor job that ESPN did for the college football playoff selection show today, taking way, way too long to make their unveiling of the picks of the veiling of the field today, taking 22 minutes to start and really 34 minutes to finally finish up. So it was at 12:34 today when Eastern time when they finally got the entire field unveiled, which is absolutely ridiculous. It shouldn't take that long. So that's at Substack. It's also subscription based. My media notebooks are subscription based. They are $5.99 a month or $62.99 for the year. The first 100 people who sign up under the yearly option will lock that in for the year before I raise that to the price up to $72.99 after that. So please sign up. It's at we'll put a banner here to let you know that what that site is going to be. But if you look under Substack, it's under Fang's Bites, and I have 3 media notebooks that are not under the paywall. The last one, which was last week, was under the paywall, and the one I write upcoming, which I handicapped the rights about the Women's World Cup. I'll be writing about that as well. So, will OU fire Venables? Sarah, that's a good question. Probably. I would have to think so. Oklahoma didn't have a very good first year in the SEC. I know that Oklahoma is feeling that they should do much better. And of course, they didn't beat Texas either in the annual Red River Shootout this year. So, you know my feelings about Oklahoma, Sarah. I'm pretty much anti-Oklahoma, but that's quite all right. But they may fire Venables. Quickly, Stephen, do you think they're going to fire Venables?
I think they'll give him one more year. I think they made a new hiring of the OC recently. I know they fired a OC. So I think they'll give him one more year. I think next year they have to get the quarterback position right. I know they went through 2 different quarterbacks, this year. They beat Alabama at home, which is
which is a big win.
Yeah, which is a big win. So at least that gives them another year, which proves that at least they can compete in the SEC. But the schedule always is going to be very, very daunting. So they really have to get the offense going, and to do so, they need to get the right OC, which I think they will, and then they also have to figure out who the quarterback is going to be. So hopefully that answers your question, Sarah. I appreciate you joining us, and hopefully you'll keep on joining us moving forward. And thank you very much for everybody who joined us tonight. And we look forward to having you on again on our next live stream with myself and Ken Fang. And next Monday, Bears and the Vikings, me and Rashab Shakiri and his friends, we're probably considering doing a live stream to see if this is going to be a disaster or if this is going to be a much competitive bear game for the Bears. We'll keep you updated, folks. And, when we do the live stream with my good friend Rashab Shakiri, who's been on this live stream many, many times to talk about the Bears, we will let you know, and hopefully you will join us once again for that. So, Ken, thank you very much for joining me once again on this Sunday night. And then I'll let you hopefully get out of the office there, before they turn out the lights on yet. I am Stephen Negishi. Thank you very much, everybody. And have a great weekend. We'll see you next week once again on our Double A podcast live stream. Good evening. Good night, everybody.
Good night.